we've got a chance to see now 2 games between Lakers and Minnesota. Okay, so there's coming into the series, I thought there really wasn't that much data on these two teams. There just really wasn't. These two teams, they had played each other one time after Luca became a Los Angeles Laker. And in that one time that they played each other, Rudy Gobert and Julius Randle did not play for the Minnesota Timberwolves. So we had a really difficult time kind of understanding who's got the advantage stylistically. What are these two teams going to look like? What do matchups look like? Okay, what's the depth look like? Well, now we got 2 games in. Through these 2 games, who do you think is in a more favorable position? I want to make a case for both of these teams, and I want to read some of your comments as well. 2 games in, you've got a chance now. Now there's less surprises. Now we kind of have a good idea of what both squads want to do. We know the amount of depth that Minnesota has. We know Lakers have more star power. 2 games in, who's in a more favorable position? Let's look at this first from a Wolves perspective, and then I want to look at it from a Lakers perspective as well. Just to kind of be point blank here, you took a game in LA. You stole home court advantage. So anybody that I think walks into a series and does not have home court advantage and through the first 2 games gets to go back home with home court advantage, clearly that's a big, big piece of the pie. It's not 2-0 here, and you're just trying to go back home to tie up the series. It's 1-1, and you're going back home, and 3 of the next 5 games are going to be played in your arena if you end up going 7 games. You battled, by the way, even in the game that you lost in game 2, you battled to the end. I was listening to Charles and the Inside the NBA crew after the Lakers won game 2. Came home, kind of wasn't tired. So I'm watching some highlights, and I watched the Inside the NBA crew, and Barkley said something. He said that basically if Minnesota just didn't play so bad in the first 12 minutes, then Minnesota's right there. He's not wrong in that, but you still got to give the Lakers credit for outscoring them by 20 or so. But I think the point that he was trying to make is you won game 1, and in game 2, as bad as you were in the first quarter, you still made the Lakers have to play 48 minutes all the way to the end. You kind of you didn't hand them an easy W. Minnesota could have easily packed up their bags after they're down by 20 in the first quarter and just could have said, guys, we already did our job. At least we got 1 game here. No. They kept batting, get it down to 11. Lakers would put it back up to 18-20, get it down to 9. Like there were some moments there where if it wasn't for LeBron's key 3, I remember one possession, Anthony Edwards misses a 3 that would have cut the lead down to 6. You think Crypto would have been feeling comfortable in that position? They clearly wouldn't have. Another kind of perspective of who's in a more favorable position right now. I think if you're in Minnesota, you stole 1 in LA, you hung around in game 2, even though you were down by 20 at the end of the first quarter. And here's another key one. Ant really hasn't had a great game yet. I think Anthony Edwards has been, if you're talking superstar, Luca had a superstar type of game in game 2. Ant really hasn't had one of those. So I think they're waiting for an Ant game, and maybe that comes in Minnesota, where he drops 35, also has 8 assists, and also has 6 or 7 or 8 rebounds or something along those lines. I think they're also waiting for that. And then this is the last thing that I want to mention here of the Wolves' perspective of why, if you're making a case, they're in a more favorable position through 2 games. Gobert's kind of been a non-factor as well. I don't know how much that's going to change. I do think, I think there's a way too much of an overreaction here from the Lakers of trying to get Gobert in an ISO with Luca, which, by the way, I think the numbers will tell you it's not like the Lakers have this unbelievable advantage when it's that matchup, but I also think it's almost more for show. It's like, yeah, let me size up Gobert and let the crowd get into it. All that. I thought the Lakers were overreacting to that. I thought they were trying to do that way too much, in my opinion, at least in that first game. So I think if you're making a case that the Wolves are in a more favorable position after the first 2 games, those would be some of my reasons. All right, let me make a case here for the Lakers here real quick. Clearly, they obviously bounced back after that game 1 loss. Series is tied 1-1, and I think Austin Reeves has been just average. And I do think Austin Reeves will be a lot better as this series goes on. I think your depth has really not even showed up yet. I think there are games where tell me through these first two games, have the Lakers played a complete game in these first two games? Not at all. Where Minnesota played as complete of a game as you could play in game one, Lakers have not had one of those performances. Lakers have not had one of those. They shot 45% from the three-point line. Luca did his job. LeBron did his job. AR did his job. And then a couple role players chipped in. Lakers are going to have one of those games. That's going to eventually happen. They haven't had it yet. I think there's a lot more upside for the Lakers. I think that obviously kind of goes into that case as well. But you did lose home court advantage, so something to keep in mind. I do believe if you tell me which team is in a more favorable position through the first two games, I lean more towards Minnesota because they did get one game in LA. And I think that's kind of the foundational piece of why I think they're in a better position than the Lakers are, which is why I think, it starts becoming so much more interesting because you don't think the Lakers can go win in Minnesota? Of course they can. By the way, don't even take that from me. Before game two, Chris Finch basically said, we're expecting a long series. And just as easy as Minnesota came into LA and got a W, the Lakers can go into Minnesota and get a win. This is not, one of these home court advantages where it's like they got no shot. No, I think actually Luca had set up some stuff, which I loved it. Luca had set up some stuff after game two, and they were talking to him post-game about what's the environment going to be on the road. He's like, oh, it's going to be an awesome environment. It's the best environment. And he was complimenting the Minnesota Timberwolves, but I think he was also talking about, I was there last year. And we had big games that we had to win on the road, and we did it in Minnesota. And I think Luka's one of those players, some of the greats around the NBA. He's one of those players that enjoys games like this. He enjoys moments like this. He enjoys going on the road, and when everyone is against you, it's almost like he feels more comfortable with it. I mean, think about different players around the NBA and just sports in general. There's certain guys that you're on the road at the hostile environment, and they're just not as comfortable. They want to be at home. Players like Luka, think of some of the top players around the league. Where are we going? We're on the road? Cool. Wait, how many people are here? 20,000? Awesome. Is everyone standing up? Awesome. Let me do something to make all their asses sit down. I think there's certain players that enjoy that moment, and I think Luka's clearly one of those players. Okay, let me take a look at some of these comments here. I know I kind of went through a lot there, so let's see if I can go back a little bit and see here. Let's see. A lot of people got an opinion there on this, on the Amen Thompson and Jimmy Butler stuff. All right, let's see here. In game two, Minnesota locked up Luka in a leg lock and tripped him. That was dirty too. Run rolls off the three, exactly what the Lakers did in game two. Let's see. AR is due to have a breakout game. That was kind of one of the cases that I was making here. I want more, better Rui. I thought Rui was okay in game two. I thought he was okay. Has Ant had any great games against us this season? It's a good question. Here's the problem I have, honestly, looking at any old games. If Anthony Davis and Max Christie were still on the team, or D'Angelo Russell, there's nothing I could do with those games. So what I would say is, has he had a good game yet this series? And I would say he's had okay games. I don't think he's had a great game. I really don't believe that. Slee, Pat Riley once said, the series doesn't start till the home team loses one. It's a series. That's a great way to put it. I remember being asked, I kind of started doing these pre-games now, and I'm going to continue to do it. I'll do a pregame tomorrow on Friday. I'll do kind of a pregame on Sunday as well, at least through the playoffs. And I remember somebody had asked, hey, Slee, if Minnesota takes game one, what do you think of the series? And it kind of, I wasn't prepared for that. I just assumed Lakers were definitely getting game one. And I thought game one was kind of shocking to me, to be honest with you. But I remember when I was asked that question, I was like, well, if they take game one, then we got a series. then this is a much closer series than I, thought or anticipated. I mean, listen, I said Lakers in 6, so it's not like I'm not thinking this isn't going to be a good series. I got a lot of respect for the Minnesota Timberwolves. I just think the Lakers are a better team. But Minnesota proved through the first 2 games, not so fast, brother. Not so fast. All right, let's see what else. Everyone else has been mediocre, and maybe we're talking about some of the role players there. So even the T-Wolves had a chance to win Game 4. Had a chance to win the game in the fourth quarter, Game 2. I don't think so, Robert. Listen, if the closest you got to is 9, Lakers had a cushion the entire time. Did they make it more uncomfortable for the Lakers than they would have liked? Yes. But you can't tell me the closest you got to was within 9 and you think that they had a chance. No. Chance to win the game is you're down 2 and Minnesota's got the ball with 35 seconds left, right? That's a chance to win the game. I don't believe they had a chance to win Game 2. 9 is just not close enough to really, really say that they had a legitimate opportunity. You got to get a lot closer than that. All right, if you enjoyed this clip and you want more, just subscribe to the channel. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. is the Sliwa Show. And then after every Lakers game, post-game show right here.